Codegarden. Thank you for the warm welcome. We are from the orchestration team at Umbraco, which was newly formed out of the hardcore team. We still look after that product. And today we're going to talk to you about the new orchestration platform that we're developing. Now, when we started this talk, the product didn't even have a name, but today we're proud to present to you Umbraco Compose. Now, unfortunately, Philip's already spoiled all of our secrets and given everything away during the keynote, so we're actually going to cancel the talk and leave. But seriously, I'm Jordan. I'm the group lead of orchestration. With me, I have Lasse here. He's our staff product manager. And over here, we've got our staff engineer come intern, Rasmus. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the product is, why we created it, and the solution, or the problem that we think we're solving, the problem that we see a lot of our customers struggling with. And then I'm going to hand over to these guys to save you from me, and they'll take you through a big technical demo of the product and a deep dive into how it all works. So when we were working on hardcore, we started to see this problem that many of our customers were having. And for those of you who don't know, hardcore kind of consists of two parts. There's a CMS instance, an Umbraco site, which you all know and are familiar with. And then there's this delivery platform. And whenever you do something in the hardcore CMS, we take that content or that media or whatever you've just changed, and we push it into this delivery platform. But more and more, we're starting to see sites that are built needing more content than what comes out of the CMS. And so in the world of hardcore, customers have had one or two ways to go about this. So this is the first pattern that we see them using, where they've got some content that needs to come from a source like a PIM, a product inventory management system, or a DAM, a digital asset management system, or a CRM, or any one of a million other systems with a three-letter acronym. And their only recourse in hardcore is to take content from that source and to push it into the CMS. And that creates confusion for content authors when suddenly this content is now in more than one place where the content authors can get at it. So do they edit it in the PIM or do they edit it in the CMS? Who knows? Sometimes the answer is both, and it's really confusing. The other pattern we sometimes see is where customers are creating a custom backend for front-end, or BFF, in front of the hardcore delivery platform, so that they can also pull in content from that BFF, from other systems. Now, this has a pretty clear disadvantage in that the hardcore delivery platform is optimized for actually delivering content. It's got a content distribution network in front of it, so that customers get the content from the closest Cloudflare edge node, and when you put a BFF in front of it, you completely negate that advantage. You also put a bottleneck on that BFF where the delivery platform may not have had one. So this isn't a great platform. This isn't a great architecture either. And in reality, what we believe is going on is an even more complex mishmash that looks something like this, where you've got all kinds of different systems talking to one another in different ways. Some of these integrations are bespoke. Some of them use off-the-shelf products, integration platforms like Zapier or MuleSoft or other similar things. And all of these systems talk to each other in really confusing ways that evolve over time, and many of them push content to the front end through that BFF. Now, even this is overly simplifying the picture, because a backend for front end is exactly that. It's a backend for a single front end. And if you have multiple channels, like mobile and web and other applications that need to consume this content, you might have more than one BFF in this picture. So it all gets really, really complex really, really quickly. And that's the problem that we're hoping to address with Umbraco Compose. We believe that we can help customers create architectures that look more like this, where all of those systems, rather than having integrations that spaghetti throughout each other and make a giant mess, they instead all talk to the Compose platform, and in some cases, such as in the CMS, Compose can talk back. Now, in the early days, we're realists, right? We'd love to make it look like this, with maybe some of these arrows becoming bidirectional over time, some more of these arrows. But in reality, we accept that there's going to be some amount of this in the early days. Now, we hope to eliminate that over time, or we hope to have more and more of these arrows start to become bidirectional. But at this point, I'd like to talk about, well, what actually is it that we're doing to solve this problem? And how are we going to do that? What is Compose? And to sum it up as succinctly as I can, Compose is a software as a service tool for composing content, so bringing content together from multiple different sources and combining it into one single unified output that your front-end applications can consume. It will help simplify your DXP architecture into that diagram we saw earlier. For years, we've talked about composable DXP, and it's never really been clear. The one last outstanding problem with composable DXP is that we don't know what's doing the composing. That part's kind of left to the details. We talk about bringing the best of breed systems, but we don't talk about what aggregates all of that content, brings it together, and makes for a really unified customer experience. And we hope that maybe Compose can be your new BFF. So at this point, I'm going to run away, and I'm going to leave it to these fine gentlemen to take you through a deep dive of how the platform works, and once it launches, how you actually be able to interact with it. Over to you guys.
Cool. Yeah, so let's take a look at some of the key elements in the platform. First up, we have a management API. So that's, you could say, where we store data all around to support the platform. So most important is like projects, environments, and collections. Collections, by the way, being a logical grouping where the key is an ID and a culture. And then we have like things that are needed to support the users, API keys, webhooks, etc.
Yep. And then we have an ingestion API. The ingestion API is where you ingest your content. So if that's from your PIM or the CMS or whatever source you have your content, this is the API you will be pushing to for your data. So the endpoint or the API, it has two endpoints. So we have one that takes a predefined format, and then we have another endpoint where you can write some JavaScript that we execute, and we take whatever JSON you throw at us, run it through the JavaScript, and then you can output it in the format that we support.
And the third thing, and you really a first-class citizen, is GraphQL. And that's a really powerful tool, especially now when you have multiple collections and you're then able to query across these collections. And of course, with GraphQL, you get all the benefits that you might already know. So a very nice IDE, some of them even with AI support so that you can get help to write your queries. And it's strongly typed. And you only get back what you want to get back. So like in the example here to the left, you only get these 4 fields back. And then we plan to also introduce persisted queries, as you might already know from Hardcore, which is like an endpoint where you have your GraphQL described, meaning that you, as a domain expert, can design these GraphQL queries and then provide them as like an API-like thing to your front-end developers. That has turned out to be really cool in Hardcore, and in this case it will be even cooler, I think, because you now can do it across multiple sources.
Yeah, and then to tie it all together, we have come up with something we call type schemas. So type schemas is a JSON schema describing your data. So this is to be able for us to generate GraphQL models for you, so you don't have to write a GraphQL schema and do something that is specific to our platform. The JSON schemas is, it's a standard. We have extended it a bit with some of our own fields, but we'll come back to that later.
But well, I think we promised a demo at some point, and we will do a demo. As it's now the 20th Codegarden, or 20 years birthday at least, then we thought about digging a bit into the history of Umbraco. And before we had like a decent HQ, as some of you visited last night, people were working from home and then now and then just meeting, most often at castles. So that's why the theme for this little demo is castles. I talked briefly that we have projects, environments, and collections. So for this little demo, we actually have these. So we have one project called Danish Castles, and then we have 3 environments set up: development, staging, and production. And then we have collections for each of these environments. But for today, and to make it keep it a bit simple here, then you'll just see what is in development. And the first collection that we will look into is the CMS collection.
Yes. Yeah, let's see. So, of course, we've chosen to build our site using Umbraco. So we have our data in Umbraco. We created some different castles. And then, yeah, we have made an integration. So when we hit save and publish, we pick up the content, we send it to our platform, and then we'll be able to show it. So instead of us coming up with our own JSON output, we're taking the JSON you already know from the delivery API and pushes this into the platform. And then, because doing this means that if you have custom property editors that already supports the delivery API, you don't need to do anything special for it to be supported on our platform. Yeah. So yeah, we have this document type with a few fields, and yeah, as you can see, we have our JSON schema. So as I said before, it's a standard JSON schema where we are describing the few properties. So we have the description, which is of a type string. In this case, we are giving it a format of HTML. The format is not required, but it helps if you are generating strongly typed models, because we have implementation for some of the formats. So in GraphQL, you will actually get the type HTML, which means that if you're generating strongly typed models for your front end, you can easily distinguish between it just being a normal string or actually HTML. Yes. And then, yeah, we can use this in a GraphQL query. So our schema translates into something that we can query. So in this case, we want to get all our castles out of the platform. So we are doing a filtering on castles in the CMS collection. So yeah, just to point out, so the CMS part of this query is our collection. So in our GraphQL queries, we query on the different collections. That's our entry point. Yeah. And then we are picking out some fields that we need to show all of them. And see, yeah, and this is the output. So from our GraphQL query. So this is more or less the same as the delivery API. It's nested a bit, but if you go into the items, it's the same output as the delivery API, but just in a smaller subset, because this is only the fields that we are asking for. Yeah, and this is the output on the website, how it looks like. It's
You want to...
Let's see. Oh, it's still me. Yes, then we also want to display a single castle, right? So we then again can do a query. In this case, we take in the path as a parameter in our GraphQL query. And then, yeah, when it executes, it gives us back a collection with the single item, as you can see again on the right. And then, yeah, this is the one. So this is our single castle.
Yeah. So now we have, you could say, a very traditional CMS site, but now supported by the Compose platform. But yeah, we want to go further, either because we planned it ahead or because something came in afterwards. And in this case, we want to add like monarchs, because these castles were most often built like Danish kings and queens. So we got access to a bunch of data that we want to ingest into the platform and make, in the end, visible at the website. So a new collection, and then here you see the data. We found them somewhere, got them into Excel, and then in Excel created a little VB script so that we can ingest them. And that's just to showcase that you can ingest from anywhere, right? So this is fairly simple. So you can either ingest everything in one payload, or you can ingest multiple payloads. That's fully up to you. We support both. But yeah, here I've just created this HTTP post, and then we have a bunch of monarchs into the platform. And when they're in there, then of course we need to tell the platform how to understand these data. In this case, there are 2 strings and 2 integer fields. And this is the type schema that define the data. And when I update this, then I have access to my GraphQL queries. And GraphQL is a really powerful tool that I think you will come to love when you start working with it. Here is the very simple one where I get a list of all monarchs and define, of course, the 4 fields that I want to get back. But I can easily extend it, and in this case, for example, if I want to get a monarch from a specific point in time, then I can extend my query so it looks like this. And just to give you a little insight on how it looks in one of the IDEs, because we do create a bunch of filtering options, give you them out of the box, then they are available here. Or else you can, as you can see in the top here, then you have your and, not, and or, so you can start doing more complex things on your own. But Rasmus, what do you want to do with that?
Yeah, so we need a way on our castles to tell what year it was constructed in, because we want to show the monarch that was at the time at the castle was constructed. So we added a new field to our document type in Umbraco, and then we added it to our type schema. In this case, it's an integer we want out, so we add that to the JSON schema. Then we can take the query from before, add it to our GraphQL query, and then we get the year outputted. Then we'll have another query, so the one Lasse showed before, I've taken the same query, made the year a parameter instead, so we can take the output from the castle and put into this query, which then gives us out the monarch for that year, and then we can present it on our website.
So this was a very, very basic way to combine it without, you could say, extending, doing references within GraphQL. But let's take a step further, and in this case, we, let's say, want to have this castle website be a bit more like booking.com or something, so we want to add features to this website. So in this case, we got access to struct PIM, and in there created a bunch of features. So struct PIM is now the 3rd collection that we have access to. So here you are, even though it looks a bit like Umbraco, and that's because struct has a tight relationship to Umbraco. This is struct PIM. And in here, I've created some additional features, like if there's a bar available, if you have an EV charger available, and things like that. But also, of course, the most important, how far distance there is to the nearest golf course. And then, of course, that's tied with webhooks. So that whenever we update these things in struct, then we will fire a webhook. But it turns out that a webhook from struct PIM only contains like the ID on a specific item. So we need to do something about that. And there are multiple ways you can go about that. We actually, as Rasmus said, have an endpoint, a formatting endpoint that also has an HTTP request opportunity. So you can do, you could fetch from it within there. But in this case, I decided to go with Zapier. So having 3 steps here. So first one where I receive the webhook. Second one where I query for the full payload of that castle. And then the third one where I map it up to the output that we expect in Umbraco Compose. And then it's all in exactly like you saw it before with the Excel spreadsheet. And then I need to tell it how to query this. So here is the type schema with a bunch of Boolean values and one number that indicates the distance to the golf course. And then, Rasmus, what do you do then?
So again, we want to have this shown on the castle page. So in Umbraco, in our document type, we added a new SKU field. So on our castles, we can type in the SKU that is also in struct PIM. So in our type schema or JSON schema, we've added this SKU field. We want that out, but we don't want it out as a string. We store it as a string in the CMS, but we have added some, as I mentioned earlier, some extensions to the JSON schema, so we can actually we can create references to object based on IDs. So we have this $delivery property, which is our own custom property to the JSON schema. Here we can tell it that it's a reference we want to have, and which collection to fetch the reference from. We also have a field name property. That means that in the GraphQL, we can actually rename the field, because SKU doesn't really make sense when that's not what we are outputting. So instead, we have it as features, as you can see here on the query, and then we can do a reference as in GraphQL, getting this out. And that means that in the same GraphQL query, we are actually fetching from another collection the reference, the data that is coming from struct PIM now and from Umbraco tied together in the same response. And then we can show it.
Yeah, so now you have all your features in the same output as before. But let's take it one step further. Let's say we also had access to DAM, and we do, in this case, QBank DAM. And that's our fourth collection in this little demo. So here you see a screenshot from QBank, where we created a folder with Danish castles, some pictures from the Umbraco history. Again, there's a webhook functionality in QBank that's set up, but it turns out here that it fires actually the full payload, but we don't need it all. There's a various number of crops there and formatting thing. We know exactly which one to go with, so we don't want to ingest the full payload. So in this case, we used our formatting object.
Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, there are two endpoints for ingesting, where one of them is you can write a JavaScript function that we are running with your payload you ingest. So the function takes a single parameter. It has to export a default function. It takes a single parameter, which is the data you ingest. And then you can do more or less what you want to do in your JavaScript. In this case, we want to get a specific crop. So we are getting that from the payload by the template ID. And the return from our function needs to be either an object or an array of the same, in the same format as the ingest endpoint expects. And that means that we are getting this output out of the function. So we're taking the JSON from QBank, ingested it into our platform, into Compose, then transformed it through the JavaScript function and getting the format that we want. And then again, we need a JSON schema to describe the data, so we can actually query on it in GraphQL. And I think that's where.
And then let's try to make a little demo on how that looks. And then I need to find the right screen, and that's down there. So I think you can see it now, and let me just verify that we are still logged in. We are not.
Nope.
So I'll click it there. And now we are. So here you have our castles, and in the bottom you see that we have a Umbraco pictures from QBank. And if I click that, you'll see like something that looks very similar to a media picker. And I can go and pick pictures. I can also search in here. We are very grateful for Mads because he helped us out with this picker. So I can search for him and submit him to the site. So how does that actually work that we can do that? Let's take a look at the settings and see how it works. So on the document type, we added this picker. Here it's called generic picker. It will get another name at some point. And within that picker, we have set up like a data configuration type. And if I can go back to that, then you see the data configuration types down here. So right now I have 3 options. Let's take a look at the QBank option that we have added. Then you could say underlying here there is like a generic query, and we just need additional information to actually do the concrete query for this specific type. So I give it a name like a collection, a schema type, and then list the properties that I want to get out. Then I also tell it what key should be stored within Umbraco, and then what type it should use. In this case, you saw it looked like a media picker. Let's try to take a default one, and then I can give it an icon, and then in this case, what name field I want to show. I do not have a lot of string fields here, so I'll use the description. And then lastly, also what to search on. So if we save this and go back and go down to Umbraco Castle from 2014 for those who have the Umbraco history in place, then you'll see that it's now looks a bit different than the media picker like look before, and looks a bit more like a multinode tree picker. And of course I can again select the picture here, but now it will not turn up as an image down here. And then in addition to that, because it's based on these data type configurations, we can use them across Umbraco. So down here we have created like lists. So let's take a look, for example, at the monarchs. They are set up the exact same way as with QBank Media, but of course with the information that is referred to that type schema. And then you see, you probably recall the fields like name, read, start, and end, and the house. And then out of the box, I have like ordering, sorting on them, on all of the fields here. And I also can query. And it all happens within GraphQL. And then I need the slides back here. And I think
it works.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes. Then, as Lasse said, we are storing. He chose the ID field of the items we want to store. So what we actually get in the output from the API. So this is the JSON output from the delivery API. We didn't do anything custom. We just added the property editor, and it gave us these out of the box, right? So we now have the IDs for the content items. We need to add those to our JSON schema, our type schema, to be able to tell the platform that we actually, or in GraphQL, that we want to get them out as references, because the IDs it's just not nice working with those in this case. So we again have the delivery extension, or in this case we also tell it it's an array of items we want out, and then we in the delivery extension we are fetching from the QBank DAM collection instead of the struct PIM that we did before. This gives us or makes it possible to do this query in GraphQL. So now, it's generated as a reference. So the reference is it's possible to even add filtering or sorting to this in your GraphQL query. So yeah. And let's see, here's the output. So yeah, as you can see, we asked for the URLs. We are getting all the URLs out for all of our pictures now. And yeah, we of course want to show these, so we have them on our website now. And if you want to look at how the frontend is implemented, it's available on my Codegarden website. So it's implemented in Astro, and yeah, yips. I think we'll hand it over to you, Jordan.
Cool. So hopefully that gives you a really good overview about how to get content into the platform, how to get it out again, and then a little bit about how the CMS can be used to interact with that content as though it's in the CMS, even though it's residing in a different platform. I'd like to talk now a little bit about the roadmap for the product. It's not yet commercially available, nor will it be for a little while, but let's talk about what happens between now and that commercial release. So we're going to be starting a private beta soon. You saw a QR code earlier. We'll post that again in a second on the slides that you can use to apply for a spot in that open beta, and that private beta rather. And the intention for that beta is that you'll get quite close access to the team working on the product. You'll get a feedback channel, which you can use to communicate directly with us so that you can help shape that platform. We want people and projects that are specifically going to sort of test the limits of the platform because you'll have quite close access to the team. We're looking at a commercial launch early in 2026. Of course, the next question everyone's going to have is about pricing. We don't have all of that information at this stage. We will share more as soon as we have decided upon some of it. We'll be working closely both with those private beta participants and the Orchestration Advisory Board to respond to any feedback that comes up throughout the course of that private beta and onwards, of course. And we'll be looking at adding a few more features to the platform, which I'll talk about in a moment. At this stage, you've also seen a lot of APIs. We've opted for an API-first-driven development where we flesh out the product and the features using specifically APIs. It's a development product aimed very much at technical teams, but the intention is to eventually add UI for some of the more common operations that happen through our management APIs and stuff like that. So UI will come in time, but we're not there yet. At launch, we hope to have modern RESTful APIs for managing your project and all of the metadata associated with your project, configuring webhooks, setting up API keys, setting up those type schemas that Rasmus has demoed. All of that kind of stuff will have modern RESTful APIs, including getting content into the platform as well. For getting it out again, there is that flexible delivery GraphQL API. And at launch, it will be GraphQL. And it will support both persisted and ad hoc queries. So we didn't talk too much about persisted queries, but what that lets you do is sort of save some pre-configured GraphQL so that you can just say, run the query with this name. And what that does is it saves on HTTP payloads. So it means that you're not sending much to the server, so you theoretically get back a snappier response. But it also lets you set up fine-grained access control for those queries as well. We're looking at regional data hosting, so we're not sure exactly what the regions we will launch with yet, but it will likely be some combination of Europe and the US, depending on the state of the world when we get there. And like the hardcore delivery APIs, we will have a very straightforward cache policy and CDN out of the box so that you don't need to set up any of that, and you'll just have this delivery API that's very scalable and responds quickly no matter which part of the world that your users are in. Of course, we saw that open source, that bidirectional Umbraco CMS integration, where not only does any content that you save in the CMS get pushed into that delivery platform, but you'll also be able to get it back in the other direction as well. And we're actually looking to open source that part of the product. So while the actual orchestration platform itself will be a commercial product, we're looking at making as much of the ecosystem around it open source as possible, so that we can get, contributions from the community and other agencies who are interested in the platform and want to help us extend it and add new features over time. And of course, the thing that we haven't talked about too much is that, well, this platform is actually quite generic. While we expect that, the majority of our users will opt for Umbraco CMS, both because that's the community we're talking to today, and because, of course, we will have that bidirectional integration, which makes life really easy for you, the product isn't actually specific to that CMS, and you can opt to use other CMS platforms, or you can even, in some situations, potentially bring multiple CMSs and have that those both push content into the platform. And of course, we'll be looking to have some features that allow you to quickly integrate with other sources. So one of those, for example, that you've seen today is those mapping functions where you can point arbitrary webhooks at an endpoint and then define your own JavaScript to map that payload to something that the orchestration platform can take in. We've got other ideas around that, and we're exploring that space. Okay, so once more, here is the QR code and the URL if you'd like to apply for that that private beta rather. We can only accept a limited number of customers into that, so please note that applying doesn't mean we're guaranteeing access, but we'll try and aim to get that available to as many customers as we can, and we'll open it up to more kind of slots over time. And finally, I'd like to mention that this is the team who has been working on Compose. We're about to add more, but if you see any of these friendly faces around Codegarden, please don't hesitate to reach out and have a chat with them. I'm sure they'd love to talk about the product and where to from here. Thank you all for your time. We will be around if you would like to come and ask us questions up the front or any other time during Codegarden.